The internal plan of the Red Pyramid is remarkably simple. What's striking about that of Khufu's pyramid, besides its greater complexity, is the absence of antechambers. Some have assigned this role to the underground chamber or to the intermediate chamber known as the Queen's Chamber. However, the funerary furniture had to be readily accessible to the deceased, which then would not have been the case. Others then thought about the Grand Gallery, but its steep slope makes this hypothesis unlikely. So, why would the Egyptians have abandoned a plan that was so effective in the Red Pyramid? And why don't we find antechambers adjacent to the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid? Jean-Pierre Houdin has studied all the pyramids of the 3rd and 4th dynasties. He perceived a logical evolution from one pyramid to the next in a handing down of knowledge. As the Red Pyramid immediately preceded Khufu's pyramid, it's probable that the designers of the former, or their immediate disciples, designed the latter. Therefore, there was no logical or practical reason to introduce a major change in the internal architecture of the new pyramid. Consequently, Jean-Pierre Houdin had the idea of inserting the same arrangement of antechambers as that found in the Red Pyramid into Khufu's pyramid, but raised to the level of the King's Chamber at a height of 43 meters and behind the Grand Gallery. This new arrangement worked perfectly in Khufu's pyramid. In addition, if we observe the result in space, it explains several curiosities in the internal plan of the structure, especially where the offsetting of the Grand Gallery is concerned. It does not lie along the monument's north-south axis, since the antechambers are on this axis. Similarly, the twisted shape of the shafts from the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber becomes logical if these shafts had to bypass the antechambers and the passageway that connected them to the King's Chamber. If we assume that Khufu's pyramid reclaims its antechambers, the true funeral circuit, which Jean-Pierre Houdin calls the noble circuit, becomes quite different. Therefore, the entrance in the eastern corner of the northern wall of the chamber that visitors use today is not the one the Egyptians built for the funerary procession to use. The true entrance was cleverly concealed in the western corner of the same wall. If we look carefully, we can see that the red stones form a portico which supports the load of the ceilings installed above. The yellow stones, in contact only with the red blocks of the portico, are simply infill and do not cause any load on the stone that's underneath. This block is therefore free of any load, which means it can be moved. We can still see today, if we visit the King's Chamber, that the joints between the stones of the wall are perfect, with not enough room to slip a razor blade between them. On the other hand, in the vertical joint between this block and the neighboring block to the right, you could insert a credit card. Moreover, microgravimetric analysis in 1986 detected a clear zone of low density in this area. We see a new corridor leading to the Queen's Chamber. This corridor was detected by radar by the Japanese team of Dr. Yoshimura from the University of Waseda in the late 1980s. Let's look at the narrow shaft running north from the Queen's Chamber. This shaft, according to the official surveys, bends for no reason that the conventional theory can provide.